I saw Lady Bird.
Did you?
Yes, it did. So you loved it, right?
I did, yeah. It was probably like, if not my favorite film from TIFF, it was like my second favorite.
Oh, what would be the other contender?
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Right. I was gonna go catch that, but I didn't have the time. But
yeah,
I feel like I was oversold on Lady Bird.
Oh, well, you can blame me partially for that. But like, it also depends too on how much of a sucker you are for those kind of coming of age stories.
I love coming of age stories, and I think it was very well shot and it was very well acted. Saoirse Ronan is like, she's really good at what she does.
Yeah, but what about the parent characters? Like, I hadn't seen a whole lot from the actress who plays Lady Bird's mother, but she like...
Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah, she just blew my socks off in that movie.
Well, the dad was good too. It was like everyone was pretty good, actually.
Tracy Letts has been, who played the dad, he's been booking more and more roles this year, but he's my nominee for Best Movie Dad of 2017. Because he's just so warm and like approachable.
Right. Are you sure it's not Alfred Pennyworth?
No, definitely Tracy Letts. Alfred has barely any lines in that movie.
Oh, he arguably has like the most troublesome kid. I just feel like I've seen better coming of age movies, and it may not be the best movie I see this year. It's up there with The Florida Project, and I thought The Florida Project was really good, but not great. One of my classic quotes.
Yeah, I'll have to see The Florida Project to compare, yeah.
Yeah, go see The Florida Project, but I felt Lady Bird was kind of flat in certain moments. It was
really? Oh man, I was with it the whole time. Like
well, no, I had my attention.
I was laughing like every 30 seconds.
Oh, well, definitely I wasn't laughing every 30 seconds.
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but like I like whenever there was an intended joke, I was with it.
Oh, well, the writing is very good. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I think people like it a lot. Just in terms of coming of age stories, I'd say between this and Moonlight, I much prefer Moonlight, but that might just be subjective.
Yes, it is subjective.
Yeah, I think I like Moonlight a lot more.
Okay, all right.
But they kind of occupy different genres, even though they're both coming of age stories, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're set in very different places, and like the stakes are very different. But
well, Moonlight's not a comedy.
No.
Yeah, no. I think it's a lot more serious and a lot more heavy than Lady Bird. But I mean, so far I think Saoirse Ronan is like the runaway for Best Actress.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen anyone else that has really come close. Mind you, we are gonna have a bunch of like Oscar bait movies coming up.
Yeah, there'll be a few. I mean, the category will get filled out. I think Claire Foy might get a nod for the Andy Serkis movie Breathe.
Did you see that?
No, but it feels like it's grubbing for awards pretty hard, so I wouldn't be surprised.
It's an Oscar baity movie.
Yeah. That about does it for Lady Bird, but let's start the show.
Please listen carefully.
Welcome to another episode of the Extra Buttery Podcast. We are just 1 week away from Star Wars The Last Jedi, so we'll be touching on that, obviously, before covering it in detail in the next episode. This time on the show, we'll also be touching on the new Pixar film, COCO, which I saw and really, really enjoyed. And we're also going to touch on Bryan Singer being suddenly fired from the director's chair on the Queen biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. All that and more coming up on this episode, but coming to you from Toronto, my name is Robert Snow, and joining me from Vancouver is my co-host Jason Chen. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I was just working on some chili there before we fired up this recording session, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're telling me
so
about
looking
that.
forward to that.
Are you gonna mail them over?
Mail some over? I mean, I might just want to eat.
What's the point of bringing it up if you're not gonna send it over and share? Like, that's just cruel.
You want to eat chili that's been sitting in Canada Post for like a week while it gets to Vancouver?
Well, freeze it and put it in a styrofoam box and some ice packs, and you're good to go. Won't take that long.
You talk like you've done something like this before.
Well, yeah. You ever you can bring fish? Like frozen fish from overseas. Like, you can't bring in meat, but you can bring in fish, and that's how they do it.
Oh,
they freeze it, and they put in put it with ice packs and a little temperature type thing bags. I don't know what they're called, and they stay frozen for a couple hours. So you'll probably have to expedite it, but I'm just giving you ideas, Rob.
All right. For something completely different, do you want to talk about Bryan Singer getting fired from this Queen biopic? Because it just broke Monday of this week, and I don't know. I mean, There were a few people who I saw cheering it on, probably just because they don't like Bryan Singer as a person, but it came a bit suddenly because I don't think I'd been hearing a whole lot about problems on the set of that movie.
Is it really sudden though, Rob? Because there have always been rumors that Bryan Singer used to diddle little boys.
Oh, well, okay. Well, but is that's not what's going on in this case, though, is it?
No, but I think it's an extension of that. Bryan Singer has this really tarnished reputation in some circles, and the allegations against him have always kind of been underneath the surface for a while. And now that like all these allegations against other perhaps even more powerful Hollywood people have come out, I think he's starting to crack a little bit because there's obviously something out there that he doesn't want to get out. And if you follow this like biopic, it's been through like development hell for like the past 20 years, hasn't it? Like Brian May used to like veto the making of this film and like refuse to sell the rights or something, right? So like this production seems like one of those things that just like will never seem to avoid controversy.
Yeah, and it's weird how it kind of came to be at that point, because I know that, you know, probably most people who follow the business, they would have heard that for the longest time, Sacha Baron Cohen was the choice to play Freddie Mercury in this movie. And then the family of Freddie Mercury successfully sued to stop that from happening because they were worried that like Sacha Baron Cohen is too much of a comedic actor and that he wouldn't do justice to the Mercury persona.
Right. Actually, Sacha Baron Cohen went on Howard Stern Radio a few years back and talked about it. And he was saying that like, I think they had presented it like to be this great biopic where like they talk about a lot of things about the band that people had heard of but didn't necessarily know they were true, and they had some like interesting revelations about it. The other thing is like I hate it when people don't think comedic actors can be good dramatic actors.
Yeah, I mean, the concerns that they voiced didn't make any sense to me at all, and it also sounded like they were...
It's an ego thing, money thing.
They were trying to sanitize Freddie Mercury's story a little bit, apparently. They didn't want the...
Yeah, because they were nuts.
Well, and they didn't want the screenwriters to touch at all on, like, Mercury being in the closet or his struggle with AIDS towards the end of his life.
Right.
And, you know, for a lot of music fans, a lot of people who love the music of Queen and who, you know about the band... Those things are kind of intrinsic to who Freddie Mercury is or was. And for them to kind of like kill the movie project over something that's kind of that important to the story felt a little bit petty to me.
I bet you were going to have the same problem when someone decides to make a Michael Jackson biopic.
Yeah.
Because it's going to run into the same problems where like this guy was a seriously messed up dude by the end, and you have to be careful about how you portray certain things.
Yeah, exactly. And like you don't want to get into kind of like trashy airport novel tell-all kind of status, but you want to, there's a line to tread, but you also don't want to just trim out all of the dirty details, you know.
Yeah, well, those are the bits that sell, right?
Yeah.
But going back to Bryan Singer, I think this is probably the end for him in Hollywood.
Oh, you think? Like just like that?
Like it's hard to see him coming back from this, especially if like more allegations come out and certain things that have been rumored in the past about him coming out. I think it would be pretty devastating, and obviously him throwing this fit doesn't help. But again, like with the backdrop of like Disney maybe going after bits of Fox, maybe this gives Disney an excuse to like reboot X-Men and like make a lot of money
and like expunge Singer from it.
Yeah, exactly.
But have there been any kind of like official allegations against Singer? Because the last I read was that he essentially hadn't shown up to set for a number of days, and the producers were getting more and more frustrated. And then he claimed that it was because one of his parents was ill and he had to go and look after them, and that the producers weren't being sensitive to his like mental health needs and his, you know, his personal time.
That may or may not be true. That sounds like a lot of PR spin because I just don't trust Hollywood anymore anyway.
Right.
But like the allegations about Bryan Singer go like way back to the 90s. I think at one point his name was linked to Corey Feldman.
Oh, one of those guys. Okay.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was like there's been like 3 or 4 names affiliated with the allegations about what happened to Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Yeah, so Bryan Singer, I think, has been linked to that sort of ring or story, I should say. And he doesn't come out very good in those rumors.
Right.
Who knows? There's a lot of like behind the scenes forces that we obviously don't know about. So, I mean, I just don't expect Bryan Singer to be back at any time soon.
Yeah. So like, if as you're saying, the 21st Century Fox buyout by Disney gets nailed down sometime the next week or so, it's possible that...
I don't think it'd be that fast.
No, well, there was a report that came out today that suggested that it was going to be like imminent, essentially.
Imminent doesn't have like a strict timeline though.
No, true, but at least one person was like they had heard from somebody who had heard from somebody else that it was definitely going to happen within the week, and it might cost as much as $60 billion. But Disney would obviously, they'd probably take that opportunity to reorient the X-Men franchise a little bit, let alone some of the other stuff. What that means for the other like X-Men movies that were already in the pipeline, the stuff to do with the new versions of the classic characters like Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, or Cyclops, played by Ty Sheridan. Who knows? Like, maybe those will still happen. It's hard to say.
I think that movie will still happen. It's just that if I was Disney and I was trying to buy a piece of Fox, that X-Men franchise would be at the top of my wish list.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it's such a cash cow for them. This will spawn another like 15 Marvel movies.
Oh no.
And let's keep in mind too, like Channing Tatum's, I think Gambit is starting to film soon, actually.
Yeah, finally, after like 6 or 7 years of false starts.
I don't expect it to be good. Like, it's Gambit. Like, come on. He's not that interesting.
But he's like a raging Cajun with like explodey powers.
He's exactly as lame as you make him sound. Explodey powers.
Can't you just see Channing Tatum chewing?
There was a time where Gambit was cool because he was dating Rogue or whatever. But no, he's just kind of lame. He has lame powers. He's like Jubilee. Like, your superpower is being able to make fireworks out of nothing. And you twirl a stick.
He does, yeah. He's kind of, he's unfortunately like a lot of those videos of dudes practicing lightsaber tricks in their garages.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, no, I'm not hating. I'm just saying, like, it's one thing to kind of live out your fantasy in a video on the internet, and it's another thing to try to tie a $100 million movie to.
Is it going to be 100 million?
Who knows? I mean,
that's a lot of money for a Gambit
I have
movie.
no idea. I like, as far as I know, they're still just at like the screenwriting and the casting phase. So,
slightly off topic. Speaking of allegations, House of Cards is still coming back. Finally, the show has given way to Robin Wright, who I think has been better since like season 2.
Exactly. They kind of just made what a lot of fans were already speculating. They kind of just confirmed that it's a reality and that Robin Wright's going to be the lead and Kevin Spacey won't appear at all.
I'm a little surprised, though, that they still call it House of Cards. Like, why not just come up with a new name? It's basically a spin-off.
Well, except that they're finishing it after that one block of episodes.
Oh, season 4 is like the final?
No, it's not season 4. It'd be season 6.
Oh, sorry, season 6. So it'd be like the last one ever?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Never mind. I take that back.
Now, I mean, it doesn't preclude Netflix from then doing a spin-off with like a different name.
Of course.
With Claire Underwood, played by Robin Wright. But yeah, they're going to conclude the current like storyline essentially with the this final block of episodes. And
she's having a good run, huh?
Yeah, like she's been involved in a lot of great projects like Blade Runner 2049. She's been doing some more directing.
And she's been good in them.
Yeah. Also on the topic of Netflix originals, actually, there was a trailer that came out yesterday for this new show with Joel Kinnaman that's going to be a direct to Netflix. It's called Altered Carbon.
Sci-fi?
Yeah, sci-fi. It's set 300 years in the future when people can digitize their consciousnesses and transfer them into new bodies. So Joel Kinnaman plays this guy who's been reanimated in a new body, but and he's got to like, solve a mystery, and he's being supported by some mysterious rich benefactor. There's a lot of very familiar plot points in it.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, this sounds like RoboCop.
Yeah, so the trailer looks like sort of a mishmash of Blade Runner and The Matrix, and I don't know, like, I'm always excited to check out like a new sci-fi series, but I don't know whether this one's going to stand up to close scrutiny. It might just be like a flash in the pan, kind of one season and they're done.
Right.
But I'm optimistic. Like, if it does turn out to be great, it'd be cool to see Joel Kinnaman have his own starring show for once and kind of come out from second player as he's sort of
Well, he had a chance.
Well, he was in RoboCop, but that was just one movie. Like,
right, but it was supposed to be a big movie. It just didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, but are you saying that like it's an underrated gem, or it just...
It's not underrated. It's properly rated.
Okay.
Well, have you seen it?
No, but I'm saying like...
I remember it was being like above average. That's what most people said, right? I thought it was above average. And I think that's what the consensus was, right?
A lot of people I read suggested that it was just unnecessary.
Well, it's not nearly as good as the original, so...
Right.
I can see that. It's just, I think they changed very few things. And they didn't make quite the political statement that the first RoboCop did.
Sure. But what I'm thinking is like, sure, Joel Kinnaman was in that, but could that really qualify as his first true shot at stardom? Because, you know, people don't really think of RoboCop and imagine the guy inside the suit. They're just kind of thinking of RoboCop.
But that was his first big Hollywood role, I would say.
Okay. But like...
RoboCop has like a huge following. And it's like a cult classic. So I think there is enough like pop culture clout with RoboCop for it to be like a pretty big thing, even though he's a mask half the time.
Okay, well, anyways, we'll see what happens with Altered Carbon. A few people were talking about it yesterday, and I checked out the trailer. So my feeling is that it may not make it past season 1, unless it really... The other risk that it runs is that it's Joel Kinnaman is supposed to be playing a character who's actually half Asian, half white.
So how are they doing that?
Well, they're luckily they're not like doing any like quasi yellow face or anything. They're going to they're just saying that like the consciousness that was embedded in Joel Kinnaman's body in the lore of the show is a biracial man, but it just looks like Joel Kinnaman on the outside.
What? That makes no sense. Okay, this might only last a season. Yeah, you're right, Rob. But I mean, Joel Kinnaman, like, I don't feel like he has the charisma to hold the movie on his own type guy.
I mean, he did some really good work on House of Cards, which is what sort of made me think of it.
Right, but he's not the main.
He's not the main. But what I'm saying is, like, he had enough charisma as that like secondary character on House of Cards that I am curious to see what he would do with like a lead role on a scripted show.
Right. Okay. Some actors just, for whatever reason, don't have like the lead actor kind of aura, I guess, to them. Kind of like Armie Hammer. Like,
yeah,
you kind of look at him, you're like, okay, why aren't you a lead actor? Okay, because you're better at playing the sidekick most times. So we had a lot of interesting stuff that we talked about, but due to technical difficulties, we can't you can't listen to it.
It was very riveting, but
it was very riveting, and just sorry guys.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are again.
Yes, here we are again. But we're going to talk about COCO because I went to see it last week, and for those of you who haven't seen the trailer yet, here's a clip from that.
I know I'm not supposed to love music. No music. No music. But my great-grandma Coco's father was the greatest musician of all time. Papa. Ernesto de la Cruz. One day, he left with his guitar and never returned.
And as you may or may not be able to tell, the trailers for this were a little bit light on plot.
Good.
But essentially, it's all about a young boy named Miguel who's growing up in Mexico, and his family has this very eccentric ban against music that dates back many generations. They had a musician in their family who aspired to this kind of international stardom, and he left his wife and his young daughter behind, and as a result, his wife decided to impose this ban against music, so no one in the family from that point on can listen to music or enjoy music, or certainly not become a musician. But then many generations later, here's Miguel. He's kind of rediscovered the family gene for music, and he practices his guitar secretly in his treehouse at night, and through a little bit of kind of crafty research, he kind of puts two and two together and determines that he may actually be related to this famous pop superstar in Mexico. And he tries to tell his family about it, but they, of course, reject it out of hand. They think it's stupid. They want him to join the family business of being a shoemaker again. They smash his guitar, they smash his records, and so he runs off and finds himself in the mausoleum dedicated to this famous pop star. And he, through some like magical goings on, he actually finds himself in the land of the dead, reconnecting with his dead family members from years past. And he has to go on this adventure to try to track down this pop superstar and find out whether he's actually cut out to be a musician after all. So yeah, it's very touching. It's like Pixar at their absolute best visually. They actually, depending on where you go to see the film, there's actually a mini documentary about some of Pixar's techniques that precedes the print of the movie, where they talk about how some of the beauty shots in the film literally involved placing and arranging 8 million lights to create these like beautiful tableaux. It just draws you in, but it supports a very emotional story. So if you're a Pixar fan, it's a must-see. Even if you're like, you only watch a few of their things, definitely worth a watch.
Thank you for the plug, Rob. No, I'm just kidding. No, I like Pixar's always been very good. Compared to Inside Out?
I don't know. On a personal level, I still prefer Inside Out. There were a few more jokes in there that I liked a little bit more.
Right.
But in terms of like its emotional wallop, it's definitely up there with Inside Out and with Up. It's probably in the top 5 in that capacity, maybe. Although Monsters, Inc. is also really, really good.
Yeah, Monsters, Inc. kind of gets forgotten, but it's one of Pixar's very best.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick out a bad Pixar film, though.
Except for the Cars franchise.
True. Okay, I'll give you that one. I've never seen Cars.
Like, not even the first one?
Not even the first one.
Oh, well, you're not missing a whole lot. Unless you're like a Owen Wilson fan or something.
No, but I am looking forward to The Incredibles 2 very much.
And, of course, the teaser that everyone was kind of going gaga over for The Incredibles 2 plays in front of COCO.
Oh.
As well as a 20-minute Frozen short.
I'm so glad Pixar decided to take it out, because if I was in that theater and I haven't seen it, I would have rage quit so hard.
Oh, man, I was so angry. I was like...
Were you? Including commercials, that's 40 minutes to get to the movie.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like, I'd already sat through the pre-show itself, like the trivia stuff that Cineplex runs, plus the car ads and the non-movie trailers that run before the trailers.
The car ads are
right,
horrible.
And then you get your 10-minute trailer package, and then I see this title card, and like, you know when you go to see a Pixar film that there's going to be a short of some kind, but I didn't know that it was going to be this Frozen one that all the Frozen maniacs were excited for. But I also certainly didn't know that it was going to be a 20-minute short.
It's a TV special.
Yeah, like it's literally like it should have aired during, I don't know, the Thanksgiving weekend or something on one of the major American networks. ABC, I assume.
But I mean, good on them to recognize the problem so early and like to actually do something about it. I heard that audience...
Yeah, because enough people complained that about probably the people who were complaining, they were more concerned about the extra runtime than the fact that it's a kid's or it's connected to a franchise that like all adults hate.
Right, but I mean, well, do all adults hate it? I feel like a lot of them like it too.
Well, yes, they secretly love it.
But I mean, it just puts you in a really bad mood for the film, right? Like if you end the short and everyone's like already impatient and fed up, you're not gonna get a good reaction to the movie.
Yeah, and like make no mistake, like obviously had it been like 5 minutes, I can put up with Olaf the warm hug snowman for 5 minutes without losing my brain, but it's when he's like...
Yeah, well 5 minutes is fine, yeah. That's how long it should be.
Well, it's when he's there like running around in a sleigh looking for traditions, for the holidays, knocking on people's doors, and they've composed like 4 new songs, and
it's too much.
Yeah, it's just too much. So yeah, totally good on Disney for listening to the people and doing something positive on that one. Also kind of annoyed that there wasn't a proper Pixar short, because those ones are almost always better.
Yes, I still remember a lot of them, actually.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's too bad. They totally missed an opportunity there, but I hope people learn something from this. And it's like you can only fuck with the audience for so long.
After a while, it's actually going to have a negative impact on your ticket sales, because people will literally say parents will literally say to their other parent friends, they'll be like, don't take your kid to see that, because you're going to secretly end up in the movie theater for 20 minutes longer. And, anyone who's taken a young kid to a movie theater will know that 20 more minutes of the kid hopping up and down out of their seat is probably not your ideal weekend plans.
When we went to the movies, we were always kind of like sticklers about being in our seats before the show begins. Are you less so like that now? I know that commercials are going to play before the film, so I don't really care that much about going early anymore. I'd almost walk in when like the commercials are playing still.
If I have reserved seats, then yeah. If I don't have reserved seats and it's just general admission, I do try to get there like half an hour early because I'm pretty flexible with where I sit in a movie theater, but I will not sit in those neck breakers in the first few rows.
Right, but if you go to a movie that's been out for like a couple weeks, I mean, you can go into a show like when the commercials are playing and still find a decent seat.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's fine if you are seeing it in the a couple weeks after opening, but I'm almost always seeing stuff opening weekend, so the rules are different.
Yeah, the rules are different for opening weekend. In fact, I'd almost say that I only go for like the reserved seats during opening weekend, and if there's not an option to reserve seats, then I'm less likely to go on opening weekend.
Right.
And it kind of sucks because most of the times when you reserve seats, it's for 3D screenings, and I hate 3D. So then I'm stuck with like general admission for the 2D, and that's when you get lineups.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I used to be like real stickler about going early because I want to see all the trailers. I don't want to miss any of it. Now like the car commercials are getting to me, and I'm pretty willing to like sit through them, but it's too much. Like it's the same bullshit over and over again. Now we got like Google Home commercials and like freaking Glenlivet commercials. I'm like, what the are you doing here?
Yeah, well, I will say that in that one particular case, I do really like that Glenlivet spot because I enjoy the product. But
the commercial is so cheesy. The writing it is so cheesy. The Glenlivet. But the whiskey. Who thought of this? Sorry. The whiskey? Like, come on. No. You sound like a bro. This is the whiskey, man.
A Scottish bro.
This is this shit, man.
They do happen to have like very bro-ish talent in that spot too.
A little bit.
They're like wading out shirtless in this what has to be like a freezing cold Scottish river. Or something.
People who like shop 24/7 at like Columbia Sportswear type people.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just
no.
But, I know what you're all about when you're wearing all Columbia stuff.
I will say though, there's one thing that will get me to deliberately try to be in the movie theater ahead of time, and that's that stupid Timeplay game.
Do you play it? No, you don't, right?
I do.
You do play it?
It's my dirty little secret.
Oh my god. How come I never knew this when we went to watch movies?
Because they weren't running it when we went to watch movies.
Yeah, they were.
It wasn't a thing. Well, you didn't get like on your phone or anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like it's been around forever?
I mean, maybe you've seen it at like a bunch of Vancouver screenings, but they definitely never had it when we were in Ottawa.
They have it at every single screening here. Every single one.
But here's what I'll say.
The prices aren't even that good. Who eats Poptopia? Popcorn's been there for like an hour in a box.
Caramel covered popcorn, I know.
Oh my god.
But the reason why I play is for the times when it's like, I don't know, every second movie nowadays where they offer scene points as an incentive. That's why I play.
But they only offer like 10, right? Isn't it?
No, they offer like 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you get in your top 3.
Oh, if you get in the top 3. I always thought the prizes were stupid shitty, and I didn't need this to like not touch my phone. Like it's not like an itch I have to scratch for you.
Well, no, I mean I will say that for the first like 2 or 3 years that the game was available in Cineplex, I hated it because the prizes were all terrible. Like no one wants a free regular drink or a Poptopia or something. Or any of that. But when they started offering scene points, I was immediately incentivized because that has an impact on my wallet, man.
It's true. I think it's like you have to watch 25 movies like regular price before you get one free movie.
No, if you're buying a regular price ticket,
yeah, it's 100. It's 100 points.
You get 100 points.
And it's 2,500 for one ticket, isn't it?
No, it's only 1,000.
Okay, so sorry, yeah, 10 movies to one free movie then.
10 movies, yeah, but 15 movies if you want to get into like a 3D show.
Right.
And 20 movies if you want to get into a VIP show with 19 plus.
And they also changed the rules. Like I think you used to get like 10% off concession with your scene card. Now you just get points. Like you don't.
No, you can. They changed it so that they took away the 10% discount, but then they made it so that you could use your scene points against the price of the concession. So you still get a discount, but you have to use your scene points to get it.
Oh.
So it's definitely like it sucks
harder,
for the consumer a little bit.
Yeah, it sucks for us. I know what you're doing, Cineplex.
Because they probably realized that it was, it was hurting their bottom line. Those concessions are.
Yeah, that's the real moneymaker. That's the real margins, man.
But yeah, I'm now in like the top 1,000 for Timeplay in Toronto. So I'm crawling up the ranks.
Oh my god, you are such a dork. I can't believe you buy into this crap. Don't do it, Rob. Don't do it.
Literally, like, I keep track of my scores. My name comes up in the Timeplay Legends category.
This must be too easy. The questions are so stupid easy. This must be like cakewalk for you.
Exactly. So it's free money, essentially. It takes a while to get it, but you get your points and you
Are you a grinder when it comes to video games too?
No, if a game has like too many grinding challenges, I'll just move on.
Because that's what it feels like. You're really grinding for it.
Good example is the new Zelda game, Breath of the Wild. Like that game has got so many collectibles, and you can literally put like 500 hours into that game trying to get 100% completion. So when you get up into that kind of category, I'm only like maybe 10 hours in so far, but I already know that there's some parts of that game that I just won't bother trying to finish because it's just mine.
It's kind of like Assassin's Creed. Once I finished kind of like the main campaign, I really had zero interest in doing the side missions. Some of them were fun, but like collecting 100 feathers or whatever it was, I'm just like, I'm not that interested. Sorry.
Yeah, like if the incentive for collecting 100 feathers is just you get to unlock the gallery of concept art for the game, then it's
it's just like, I can just Google that, by the way.
Actually, we never talk about video games on this show. It's
we should.
Yeah.
Are you a big gamer? I don't even know.
Not really. I mean, I'll try to play some of the bigger titles like Fallout or the one that I finished most recently was the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor.
Right. I'll generally try out the big titles in sports games, but that's about it. I don't even game that much, really.
Yeah.
Like all my friends are into Dota. I can't get into it. Oh yeah,
no, I can't. No, that's when you get into the kind of games like Dota and StarCraft that people literally play professionally. I don't even bother with it.
I do enjoy real-time strategy though. That and FPS are probably my two favorite on PC. Oh fuck! What are we gonna talk about, Rob?
we got really tangent now. Oh, okay. Well, one thing that did catch my eye this week, which file this under like stupid Hollywood news that will never happen. Tarantino apparently has an idea for Star Trek.
Oh my god, I heard about this, and he has the attention of everyone now.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, dude, we already paid attention to you when you announced that your new movie was coming in 2 years. Like, we don't just go and make that. Like, don't be talking your mouth off about some random idea that you had that is never really going to happen.
I do feel like you have something against Tarantino though. I feel like it's personal, Rob.
I'm still really mad about Hateful Eight.
I can't believe that's the film that pisses you off.
I'm also surprised. I thought I would have liked that a lot more than I did. And every time I think about it, I then think about a movie called Free Fire that I saw at TIFF last year, and which delivered way better on the concept of like a bunch of bad people locked in a room together. And it was like 90 minutes long. So yeah, when I set that movie against Hateful Eight, it just makes my blood boil.
I think Tarantino has earned the right to have an audience. I just think it's hilarious that it's for Star Trek.
Yeah, and like he's not even all he said was that he has an idea for it and that he was talking to J.J. Abrams about how to do it.
Which is interesting. I'm sure he is full of good ideas. I just don't know how he came to Star Trek. Like, it seems like a genre he just won't really touch or engage you with.
Yeah, let alone the fact that, if he actually tried to make a movie in that kind of studio franchise atmosphere, the world would implode. Like, he would be demanding things that no director ever gets on a movie of that scale. Paramount would fire him before the first couple of days of production were done.
Have you seen the documentary on Netflix, Jim and Andy?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of how I
actually kind of liked it too.
It was why? Do people say it's not good? It's good.
No, well, a few people were, and I sort of share this idea that the Jim Carrey interview that makes up the spine of the movie, like the new footage, he's a little bit annoying in that, just because he's, going on and on and on with his weird existential ideas.
I found him to be quite lucid, actually.
I mean, he's more lucid in that than he has been in some of the interviews he's given the past few months.
But clearly he was method acting when he was playing Andy Kaufman.
Right. Yeah.
He obviously went overboard, But I don't see how like this is kind of any different when Daniel Day-Lewis refused to get off his wheelchair. There's an arrogance and a pretentiousness to it, of course. But I mean, that's why he was so good. He was obviously an asshole, and like he went too far, I think, in certain instances, but he was going for something here. Like, it wasn't him trying to be an asshole per se. It was him being someone else who was an asshole. Like, Tony Clifton was an asshole.
Well, yeah, but isn't it true that, like, when Daniel Day-Lewis does it, obviously, like, when he's on set, he's really irritating if it's something like My Left Foot, where he's demanding to be carried around and stuff. But people don't seem to talk about working on Daniel Day-Lewis movies and being, like, terrorized to go to set because they really don't know what's going to happen. Like, I think that part of the issue with Man on the Moon was that the Andy Kaufman, by his very nature, was like this crazy performance artist who got up in people's faces and wouldn't acknowledge the reality of what was going on. So when you combine that with a method performance, you get this like perfect storm of social awkwardness and like dysfunction.
Yeah, so like I think Daniel Day-Lewis had a little more clout because he was already like this Oscar actor, and so like whatever he does, people are just kind of like, okay, he's an artist. And this goes back to the original point where like I think comedic actors don't get that kind of respect. People think they're weird, and if they try something that pushes the limits even more, people think they're just flat out psycho.
Right.
But again, this is what like Jared Leto did in Suicide Squad. He sent like cast members like dead mice and all kinds of batshit crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, and look where it got him. Like half his material got deleted.
It was a fucking terrible interpretation of the Joker.
Yeah.
It's obviously a risky proposition, but if you can pull it off, man, you can put in some of the best performances of your career. I think Jim Carrey is like a super underrated dramatic actor. It's just too bad that people just write him off as some weird person, which he kind of is, but that's part of his genius.
I think where people kind of have issues is when he kind of takes that work that he's trying to do and he doesn't really acknowledge other people's personal space or their like right to not be part of the act.
No, because he was playing someone else. Yeah.
He's getting up in like the director's face and, you know, refusing to come to set and like,
yes.
So he's taking it so far, but yeah, like when he does do dramatic roles, I really like it. Like obviously Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is
great film.
is
great
so
film.
good. And it's actually, I love the little detail in Jim and Andy about how Jim Carrey sat down with Michel Gondry, like I think it was like a year or two before the movie got made. And Michel Gondry took one look at him and said, "Oh, you are so ill. Please do not get well." I need.
Yeah. He talked about it in the documentary. He was so broken. I think that was he was so broken. Yeah.
But you have to commend Jim Carrey for having a career where, you know, he can be that blockbuster comedy star, like the man with 1,000 faces, and then kind of do these incredible, like whiplash-inducing shifts to some really interesting work.
I'm a big fan. I'm fascinated by his career. I used to be a big fan growing up when I was a kid. Like I watched his comedies all the time.
Right.
And then to see him be so good in dramas is even more surprising in a good way. But I just feel like he just doesn't get that kind of respect, and it kind of sucks.
Well, I feel like, you know, he did that interview on the red carpet there a month or two ago with one of those stereotypical Entertainment Tonight type interview gals, and he tried to take this kind of, none of us have an identity, we're all like consciousnesses floating in the void kind of, you know, he was going down that track, the same kind of track that he explores in this documentary. But he was doing it in a format that is very hostile to that kind of introspection.
I think he was mocking the reporter, actually.
Oh yeah, he was mocking her, but the problem was that the audience for those kind of interviews, they don't know how to interpret that kind of mocking, right? They just think that he's legitimately insane. Or, you know, and I think it damaged his broader, you know, for the people who only know him from Ace Ventura or The Mask, you know, they look at a clip like that and they see him with the long beard and saying these incomprehensible things, and they're like, oh, well, you know, the other classic Hollywood failure.
But I mean, Joaquin Phoenix still hasn't really recovered from I'm Not There, right?
No.
He tried to pull the same thing, except the difference is, I think with Jim Carrey, it's been kind of consistent. He's had, like, from what we know, like a pretty messy personal life.
Yeah.
And he's being sued by, like, the family of his ex-girlfriend now or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think when Jim Carrey is weird, we kind of expect it. And we kind of go, oh, look, this is what Hollywood does to people. And we kind of write him off.
Right.
But I thought the interview was really interesting. It was like the most interesting Jim Carrey interview I've ever seen, that documentary.
I definitely wouldn't call it boring by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like, I don't know. For me, for 90 minutes of that, there were clips in there that I was like, this isn't really helping that much. But
he started to kind of go off the rails for me when he did Kick-Ass 2.
Right.
And then he kind of like backed out of the film and said, you know what, this is too violent. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I think that's when he started going further to the edge for me. Feels like something that's kind of out of character for Jim Carrey.
Right.
Because before that, he was always doing like weird, wild appearances on like red carpets and all this stuff, right? Like he really liked, I think, the fame.
Yeah, like, and he talks about that in the documentary a bit. It's almost like he has this identity living inside him that lives for that sort of stuff. And,
yes,
when that identity is in control, it's kind of like a beast that is never fully satisfied.
Yeah, and he kind of like hinted toward that, like how Andy Kaufman was kind of like a biographical role for him.
Right.
Because so much of Andy Kaufman's like mannerism and personal life is that Jim Carrey kind of like felt that he had experienced as well.
Yeah, like everything is so tied up in
and like Danny DeVito, all documentary, he was like, oh man, this is crazy how much he's like Andy Kaufman. I think like everyone to a person said was like, that's scary how really he's like Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, even to the point where Andy Kaufman's like estranged daughter that he had out of wedlock, who had never actually had a conversation with him, was able to come to the set and speak to Jim Carrey in character and feel a sense of closure about, despite having never like had a real conversation with her father, she was able to talk to Jim Carrey and feel like she'd achieved some sort of connection.
Which is like the weirdest thing, because comedy has a way of like relieving, like, you know how they say laughter is like the best medicine?
Yeah.
So comedy has this way of like, I think, letting people's guard down. And so it's interesting that Jim Carrey is the type of person who can become this character and replicate this relationship that didn't exist but almost existed.
Yeah. And still managed to convince people who actually knew him, Yeah,
it was like therapy for the estranged daughter, I think.
Yeah, essentially. And for like the other family members and even for some of the people who had worked with Andy Kaufman personally over the years, like Danny DeVito. Yeah, did you ever see the short documentary that was made about Jim Carrey's paintings?
No.
It's up on Vimeo. It's really good.
I'm intrigued.
It's like maybe 9 or 10 minutes long. It's a similar almost in tone to Jim and Andy, where he talks very honestly about his artistic process and the stuff that he's like tossing around in his head, and it's paired with all of this material of him painting. And he's a really accomplished painter. Like he set up this whole studio and he's using techniques that
I'm looking at the photos now, and wow, it's quite interesting.
That most like professional painters take years to learn. He's definitely not one of these kind of fly by night hobbyists artists who's like, oh, I'm a big Hollywood star, but in my off time I like to do paintings, and they're just kind of awful. Like in the case of Carrey's work, it's like, you could put this stuff in a gallery, you would put this on your wall. Yeah, but I think that about does it for this episode, despite the the lost material that will be forever buried in the mists of time.
Call up the Time Lord.
Doctor Who's coming back for a Christmas special. Woo!
I still have never seen to this day an episode of Doctor Who, so I've always been intrigued about why this show has a cult following.
Yeah, I really don't know how to plug it for you. I think it's something you have to discover for yourself.
I know, but it would help if I got a plug from you, but I know you just love it, so we'll see.
I don't even remember how I got into it.
You probably stumbled onto it somehow.
Yeah, or like maybe a friend of mine back in like university days recommended to me or something, but it's got its own internal logic. It doesn't...
Is this the first one with the female Doctor Who?
It is, yeah. But you can't call her the Doctor Who. You have to call her the Doctor.
Oh, why can't I call her Doctor Who?
Because Doctor Who is a question. It's not a name.
So how come there's no question mark in the title?
Well, I don't know. Take that up with the.
I always thought the doctor's name was Who.
No, it's just the Doctor.
I never knew that. Wow. Okay.
The Doctor will show up at some planet or time period, and someone will come running up and say, like, who the hell are you? And he, and now she, will say, well, I'm the Doctor, as if it explains everything.
Oh. So this is like a James Bond kind of line?
Yeah, essentially.
So it's Doctor Who as opposed to Doctor Who?
Yeah, so then the show plays around with that, where they'll have the other character be like, Doctor Who, ? And then the Doctor will just kind of like smile knowingly and continue on with the adventure.
So this Doctor actually doesn't have a name.
I mean, he has a name that he won't tell anybody.
Okay, but it's like, it's never been revealed what his name really is.
No, because it's suggested that, like, if he has a name, it's like an alien name that's unpronounceable.
I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The Doctor is an alien who's like over 2,000 years old.
Right.
But yeah, like, maybe if you're not already like completely overwhelmed by peak TV, start with the very first episode of the rebooted series back from 2005 with Christopher Eccleston and take it from there. It is weird and wonky and incredibly British. I don't think there's been a show in decades that is quite as British as this.
Oh, one day.
But yeah, that about does it for this episode. Head on over to kinetoscope.ca, where we'll be posting a new review of Star Wars The Last Jedi as soon as that's out. And there's also a recent post at one of our Netflix recommendation columns. But until the next time, my name is Robert Snow in Toronto.
And my name is Jason Chen in Vancouver. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.